The last year has been insane for you.
Yeah.
Can you just reflect on the last, I don't know, maybe since 2021 is kind of, would you say, when things really started to blow up for you?
Yeah. So
It's
I've
such
had
an interesting journey. Like, I don't even know where to start to ask.
It's a crazy journey. I mean, I try to give like the high level seasons of it, right?
Yeah.
Like I grew up playing music, but I wasn't like a child prodigy. I was just given the opportunity to play in this band, and we were all kids, it was like 11 to 15, and we ended up getting to play all over the country, open for like country music legends, and it just gave me experience. And then moving on, 16 happens. I get my driver's license. I start finding my own favorite music, and I end up playing a show or a song with Willie Nelson. And that changed my life. It made me want to write songs and move to Nashville and figure out how to do that. So a year later, I moved to Nashville. I start, do the whole sleep in your truck, starving artist thing.
Yeah.
A few years later, I end up with a publishing deal, writing songs. I got offered a record deal and respectfully declined because it wasn't the right. There's just so much that goes into it, but ultimately, I didn't believe in the vision like that the label had for me.
That takes a lot of jam.
Yeah, I mean, it was everybody in my life thought I was crazy except for the girl I was dating, who is now my wife. Like,
it's a good person to listen to.
And yeah, and that's kind of how we've navigated our whole marriage. Is like the rest of the world can think we're crazy as long as we're on the same page. That's what matters. And so, moved on from that. I was on The Voice. So I've been in front of like millions on TV, and then I lost my pub deal, got fired. We'd just had our first baby, and so it's a horrible time to lose your job.
Yeah.
And so we picked up and moved to Texas, and I was like, I'm going to build this on the road. I'm going to work twice as hard from Texas. Everybody in Nashville and Music City was like, if you want to be a country artist, the worst thing you could do is leave Nashville. It's not going to work. And we were like, you know what? We're going to raise our kids around family. My wife's from Texas. I'm from Oklahoma. We're going to work twice as hard from Texas and let God figure the rest out. And as soon as we got there, world shuts down for a couple years. And so this is 2020, and I go to work for a pavement company in Dallas, Texas, to put food on the table for my family. And I kind of like made peace with the fact that I thought music was done. Like, I didn't think that I would ever really get a chance to reestablish my music career or even, get to where we are today. And then we started to see in Texas, things started opening up a little sooner than the rest of the world. And so it gave us the opportunity to hustle a little bit. And I remember thinking, when the world opens back up, like when the gates finally open, I will not be outworked by anybody. And so we got a little bit of a head start, I would say. And that's exactly what we did. Just worked really hard, played as many shows as we could, put out as much music as we could. And then 2021, we played 120 shows. And we just started to see people show up, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is sort of working. And then Wild as Her blew up on socials, became like a viral thing, and now here we are in Toronto opening for Jason Aldean. We've had a #1 hit, a multi-platinum hit. I mean, it's just insane. Yeah,
it's unreal. What kind of perspective did that era, you working pavement, like what kind of perspective did that give you?
That's actually a great question. I don't know if I've talked much about this, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I think I had been in music for so long with not a lot of big success. You take for granted the things that happen along the way that, the 17-year-old kid would have been stoked for. But when you're in the moment and you're just looking around going, well, this guy has this and he's accomplished this, and why am I not doing what he's doing? And it's so easy to compare and get caught up in what you don't have. But what COVID did was it made me so excited to just be able to play music again, regardless of the outcome, because it was taken away from us. Like, I was playing the only music that I played for like the better part of, most of 2019, or I guess the back half of 2019 and most of 2020 was I played at a Mexican restaurant about 20 miles from my house, and it was for $100 and for free Mexican food.
Wow.
And that was the only outlet. Every 2 weeks they would let me play. Yeah. That was the only place that was allowing live music. I was, super distanced from everybody. it was the worst way to experience music, but it was the only way that I could have music, like live music in my life. And when the gates to the world kind of started to open up again, we had to go lose money every single night for a year. We were investing. We were opening up for people. I was paying my band members, but I didn't have enough. I wasn't making enough money on the shows to pay them.
Yeah.
So I'm paying them out of my pocket from my salary at the pavement company.
Wow.
And we did that for an entire year. And I was the happiest I've ever been in music. Losing money, being unsuccessful.
Yeah.
But it was because it was taken away from me that by the time I got the opportunity to play again, I was just so grateful that I was doing something that I loved instead of something that I had to do.
Yeah. And
then 2022 hits. All the money that I've invested starts coming back, right? Like we're selling tickets, we're having success, our songs are blowing up, and it was, I don't know, it was in a really ironic way. It was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. It also allowed me to be home with my family, and I got to spend a lot more time with my second daughter in those first few months of her life than I did with my first, and I was really grateful for that because family's everything.
Do you think that added perspective to your songwriting too, just being able to be around a little more?
For sure. There's a song on my record called "How You Know You Made It" that was definitely a result of COVID. Like, it made me slow down enough to realize that I was so busy like chasing a dream that I didn't realize that I had the dream right there in front of me the whole time with my wife, my kids, and that's a perspective that I didn't have going into that season of life, right? Like, where I was just so worried about hustling and providing and making a name for myself that I wasn't slowing down enough to enjoy the season that I was in with the people that I was there with. So yeah, I definitely has influenced my songwriting, and now we're playing more than we've ever played, but trying to find the balance of, having success and momentum, but also hitting pause for slowing down and enjoying life too. It's not all about work and momentum and career. Like, you got real relationships with real people that matter more than that stuff.
I wanted to ask you about your relationship with social media a little bit, because you don't strike me as a huge social media guy, but
Great.
You're awesome on social media.
Hey, thank you.
How do you balance that? Like, you seem like you have this great rapport with your fans. Your teasing of your new single, This Heart, blew the hell up on TikTok. People are begging for it.
It ain't even you, damn, this heart and everything that comes with it.
So tell me a little bit about your relationship with social media, how you balance the good and the bad of it, and how it's kind of helped your career too.
My manager is not going to like this answer, but
okay.
He already knows this answer. But I don't like social media. Like, I wish I
feel
was...
like lots of people are like that, though. You don't love it, but
especially
it's a tool.
Artists. I feel like there are a lot of artists that feel the same way of we wish that we were coming up in an era where we could just play our music, because that is what we do. That's what... None of us got into music so that we could be popular on social media.
Yeah.
I mean, the real artists. There might be some now that, like, that's the thing, is like, I want to play music so that I can be famous. Mm-hmm. But I think most of us, at least most of my friend group, we started playing music because we love playing music. And now part of the game is you have to, in order to play music and to have a successful career, you have to be good at social media.
Yeah.
I am not, admittedly, just good at it. I've had to work really hard to, like, find a way to do it authentically. I think that's the biggest thing, and that's what anybody who's successful at it will tell you, is authenticity.
Yeah.
Right? But certain people, I feel like their skill sets are just, and what is authentic to them is just in line with what works, right? Like, my friend Bailey Zimmerman is like the king of TikTok, and it's him, like, lip syncing his songs into a camera while he's eating fried chicken. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I would never do that. Like, that's just not my personality. Yeah. So it works for him because it's authentic to him. If I were to do that, people would be like, what are you doing? Like, I know you, and that is not you. And so I've had to work really hard to find ways to make it authentic to me. And we're tweaking that every day. But my relationship with it is, it's necessary.
Yeah.
And because it's necessary, I'm going to try to have a good attitude about it. Mm-hmm. Because there was a long time where I didn't, and it didn't work. So now, it helps when you hire your friends. So, like, one of my close friends is my media guy.
Nice.
And so you know, like that video that you were talking about that blew up. I was like, don't tell me what we're doing, just plan it out. Tell me, you know, kind of what to wear, what you envision, and make sure I have a beer. And so we went out, and I was drinking beer and having fun and hanging out with my friends, and we made a little teaser video that wasn't, we were supposed to make a video for something else, but we didn't have the track back yet, and it would mess up the timing of everything. So, and then the other thing that I've learned is, like, I actually have to sing the song.
Yeah.
I can't just, like, lip sync it. I need to be singing it to not feel like I'm being a phony. Like, so I essentially go out there and, you know, create a real performance, and then sometimes they'll use that audio that I'm actually singing, or sometimes they'll pair it with the actual recording, the master, and I don't know. I'm figuring it out as I go,
Yeah.
and I think it's just trial and error. You know, I don't think I've like figured out my thing yet, which is really cool because we've gained 400,000 followers in the last 2 years. And I don't feel like I figured out my thing yet on socials. So imagine when we do, right? Like when I finally kind of hit my stride there, I think it'll be big.
Well, I feel like this last single has kind of hit your stride there. Like, how excited were you by that response?
Oh my gosh, it's the biggest response we've ever had to an unreleased song. So I'm stoked about that. I don't know. It's really rewarding to see, you know, with TikTok in particular, like with that, it's probably the I don't know, the thing that I interact with the least as a user.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed myself, I'll just be there for forever.
Dude, it's so easy to get into
and
the
so
vortex on TikTok.
I don't mess with it. I create on it, and then I respond to my fans on it, and that's it. And I don't sit there and watch other people's TikToks because it's extremely addicting, and I have other responsibilities.
Yeah.
That are all alive and need my help.
Yeah.
So, but seeing it respond on that platform is the most rewarding because out of everything, it's the number one thing that drives actual music consumption. Like people will see it on that app versus on Facebook.
Yeah.
And the people that see it on TikTok will actually go listen to the song. People on Facebook will be like, that sounds like a good song. Maybe someday I'll hear it on the radio.
Right.
Or same with Instagram. It just doesn't translate the same way. A lot of TikTok fans are music fans. Therefore, when you have a moment like that, it just makes people want to go listen to the music, which is the coolest thing about social media, in my opinion, right now, is that it's free. Like we live in a day and age where the most powerful marketing tool that we have is free.
Yeah.
But it's annoying.
But it's annoying. People are annoying. It's hard to balance.
And everybody can be famous now. Like,
do you kind of like that though?
Here's what I love.
Like, I think of the Zach Bryans and the Noah Kahan's fellow Okie boy, I guess.
Zach Bryan is a fellow Okie. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
He's great.
But kind of came from TikTok.
Yeah, he blew up on Twitter.
Right.
I remember seeing
Reddit
him.
or something like that.
Yeah, like his videos. I remember seeing his videos when he was still in the Navy on Twitter, and they were like exploding, and I was like, hey, that's that boy from Ulaga. That's sick, you know?
Really?
Like, yeah. I was like, that's cool, man. I knew of him. I didn't know him at the time. And
like just through mutual friends, or you knew him through playing music?
You play music in Oklahoma. Like, there's not a huge pool of musicians. And there's only like 2 main towns. Like, you got Oklahoma City and you got Tulsa.
Gotcha.
And I grew up south of Tulsa, and he grew up in another town on the outskirts of Tulsa. So you hear about rumblings about other artists, and I just remember going like, that's insane. And then my friend Parker McCollum was on him early too, and like retweeted and was like, man, this is great. And then boom. So yeah, I always love seeing fellow Okies win. And the cool part about Zach in particular, and really that whole scene, is like, it is authenticity first all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's pretty. It doesn't matter if it's formulaic or if it's catchy. If they believe you, it will blow up, period. And so for Zach, like, that's exactly what happened. Everybody believed every word that was coming out of this guy's mouth. And it's been cool to see, Oklahoma dude do so well. Like, it's ironically, and unbiasedly, some of my favorite artists are all from Oklahoma. Like,
oh, yeah?
Turnpike Troubadours is
so
one of my favorite bands of all time. Kings of Leon, one of my favorite bands of all time. And I love what Zach's building right now. And I'm more intrigued by his persona even more than his music. Like, I love what he's doing and how he's doing it more than even the art. Like, it's just so cool to watch somebody completely break all the rules and have success doing it. It's amazing. And I'm proud to be from Oklahoma, where so many great artists are from.
When you were just talking there, I kind of, like, something kind of clicked in my head. Country music is kind of blowing up on a more mainstream scale. Like, I've always, country before country wasn't cool, I've always liked country music. But now, like, his song, I think, is #1 with Casey Musgraves. Morgan Wallen was #1 recently.
It's like 4 in the top 10 right now. It's never happened.
Do you think it's people seeing that authenticity in country music that's maybe translating to the masses more?
So, good question. I think there's definitely that. I think that we're seeing across the world, country music is getting more popular. Like, my friend Kip Moore went to South Africa and sold like 36,000 tickets or something in a few days.
Wow.
Which nobody's even toured South Africa as a country artist. Like, that doesn't happen. And he goes over there and blows the ticket sales out of the water. And then you're seeing, like, we're a new artist that goes to play in Australia on the other side of the world. And people are screaming our songs back at us. Like,
crazy.
not just the hits. Like, the songs from the first 2 records, they're screaming back at us. And I think 10 years ago that's not possible.
No.
I do think that in that way, streaming is an amazing thing, and I also think that you don't have. I feel like that Kings of Leon rock and roll era was kind of the last era of rock and roll on the radio, and that's sad. Like, I'm a huge rock and roll fan. Like, that's a huge part of my upbringing and influence. And I love classic rock and, like, modern alternative rock. But there's really not a great place for it on the radio anymore. And I think what has happened is I put out a tweet a while back that said, because I live in Texas, and I said, rock and roll ain't dead, it just moved to Texas. And that tweet blew up. It was like one of my highest performing tweets ever. And I didn't even really have, like, a great following at the time, but just people kept sharing it. And it showed me that I think country music is kind of filling the rock and roll void too. So I think that there's two different things going on right now. I think country music across the board is growing across the world, but I also think that there's, like, a rock and roll, southern rock country movement. Stapleton and Jelly Roll and I mean, there's a whole crew of us that love country and rock and are just kind of putting that into our music, and it's kind of bridging the gap a little bit. Like, there's a whole demographic of rock fans that aren't being spoken to right now, and I think that they're kind of finding it with country music.
Yeah, good point.
So,
is there anything else that maybe people wouldn't get from your music or wouldn't get from your social media that you want them to know about you?
I think we need to do a better job at showing, like, how much of a live band we are. Like, I play music entirely because I love playing live music. Like, I never fell in love with songwriting the way that some of my friends did. I never fell in love with recording the way that some of my friends did. I've always loved playing live. And so there are certain acts that I feel like fall into that category. Stapleton's one of them.
Oh, I just heard him live for the first time. He was here 2 weeks ago. It blew my mind to listen to him.
It's amazing. And I'm not even putting myself in the same category as him. I'm just saying him, Zach Brown, there's Eric Church is, like, a great live artist.
Yeah.
Those guys, to me, they are live musicians first, and they've done a great job of building their brands in that way. And I feel like that's where my heart is, that's where my skill set is, but I need to figure out a way to portray that more. So that's kind of, like, been the goal recently, is, like, how do we use social media to showcase more of that, because that's really, to me, that's where my heart is. So